y'all, if you're here because you've heard all the buzz about celery juice and you're wondering if it lives up to the hype, well, you're in the right place. My name's Adia and welcome back to my channel, The Tree Hugger. Today's video is going to break down the truth about celery juice, bust some common myths, and I'll also share with you my absolute favorite celery juice recipe for a healthy, delicious drink that is packed with nutrients. I love juicing with celery. I think it's a great addition to pretty much any juice recipe because it has a subtle flavor and it has a high water content. Some vegetables that have a high water content are going to be really great to juice with because they're going to produce more juice than low water content fruits and vegetables. There's some really popular myths surrounding celery juice, and I think they can sometimes deter new juicers from trying it out. But don't worry, y'all, I did the research, so I'm here to tell you what I found. One of the biggest myths that you have probably heard is that you have to drink celery juice on an empty stomach in order to receive like the nutritional benefits, and that's just not true. I mean, it could be, but it's probably not based on the research that I've done. So I looked at 5 different articles and none of those articles found any significant difference between drinking celery juice on an empty stomach versus drinking celery juice, after a meal or other time of day. I'm not saying that it's completely false. It might actually work for some people, but based on the available research, you don't have to drink celery juice on an empty stomach in the morning in order to reap its benefits. I am not a nutritionist by trade, though I do have a science background. What I do know about nutrition is largely self-taught, so that's why I'll never claim to give you nutritional nor medical advice in any of my videos. That is why when I'm planning my recipes and thinking about how do I want to use certain ingredients to support my body's natural functions, I do my research, okay? I review scientific journals, I'm watching videos by experts in the field, I'm referring back to my books, I'm referring back to my own experiences and traditional knowledge. So there's definitely somewhat of a scientific process there. However, if you have any information that says otherwise, that says, yes, you gotta drink celery juice on an empty stomach, please let me know in the comments below because I am always open to learning more. So the second largest myth that I've heard surrounding celery juice, and you might have heard this one too, is that celery juice should not be mixed with other ingredients because the other ingredients will weaken the nutritional or health benefits of the celery. I just really don't know about this one. Based on the research that I've done, there is no scientific evidence to actually back up this claim. Now, I have seen this claim boasted on some online sources. However, you always have to look at where your information is coming from. And those sources were typically blogs. They weren't like research papers, nor did they reference like indigenous knowledge or traditional knowledge. Blogs can absolutely be a great source to get factual information, but they can also just be full of someone's opinion that's not necessarily based on fact or research. Now, there is another explanation for the lack of like scientific research around this claim, and it could just be that no one has actually really looked into it, or if they have, that information is not widely available. Make of this claim what you will. I'm just sharing my research with y'all, what I found in the literature. There's no scientific evidence to back up either of these claims. So all of that to say, drink your celery juice and enjoy it however you like. Celery contains something called oxalates. At very high levels, these can be harmful to your kidneys. So if you are drinking celery juice every day or even multiple times a day, especially if you're doing like a juice cleanse. Another reason that I'm a big promoter of mixing in other ingredients with your celery is that, well, it just tastes better. It tastes better to have a variety of ingredients. Nobody's gonna drink celery juice straight up and just be like, oh, that was so good. That's the best thing I ever tasted. Like, nobody is saying that. So that's why I like to add a little apple and a little lemon to keep it fresh and zesty. And obviously you are going to be more inclined to finish a juice that tastes better over a juice that tastes like not that good. And that can help you achieve your overall nutritional goals because you're going to enjoy the process. Juicing should be enjoyable. It should be fun. You should be able to be creative. As long as you're doing it in a mindful way that protects your health, I really don't see a problem with, getting a little creative and having fun with it. I know I do. The way you consume any fruit or vegetable is going to ultimately impact the amount of nutritional content you receive from it. So whether you drink these ingredients as a juice, a smoothie, or eat it whole, that's that's going to affect how much fiber you get. And the type of juicer that you use can affect the nutritional content of the juice, depending on how much heat is created in the process. For example, I used to use a centrifugal juicer to make a lot of my juices. Now, the way a centrifugal juicer works is that it has a mechanism that spins around super fast, creating something called centrifugal force. Now, that will definitely break down your produce and extract the juice out. However, it creates a lot of heat in that process, and that heat can actually reduce the amount of nutrients that ends up in your final juice product. So that is one of the many reasons why I moved over to using a masticating juicer, and now I have my very lovely Nama J2 cold press juicer. When you consume celery in juice form, it is low calorie, but it still contains a host of nutrients and minerals like calcium, magnesium, potassium, and vitamins A, K, B12, B6, and C. This recipe uses 2 bunches of celery with the ends trimmed off and then cut in half so they easily fit inside my juicer, 6 lemons, for which I'm also removing the peel and the pith. And lastly, I'm adding in 2 large Honeycrisp apples, and those are just gonna give it like the most subtle sweetness. The Honeycrisp apple variety or even sugar beet apples are great additions to recipes like this because the recipe is already low in natural sugar content. So adding in like 2 or 3 of those apples that have a higher natural sugar content and therefore are just bursting with sweetness is really gonna ramp up the complexity of the flavors of this juice. So as I'm going through and cutting the peel off of my lemons, you might notice that I'm cutting a little bit deep so that I expose that like top layer of flesh, and that's so that I can really remove as much of this white pith as possible off of the lemon. The pith does have a bitter flavor that I just personally do not like in my juice. Now, I have seen some people actually leave like the entire peel on and just throw everything into the juicer. I imagine that does have some nutritional property. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but you can definitely do your research on what nutrients or minerals are inside the peel of a lemon. I'll just take mine peel and pith free because I really do not like the bitterness that comes from those. So I just situated myself, brought my juicer over a little bit more. As you can see, the hopper is pretty full already, so I'm just gonna turn this baby on, let it work its magic. As it's juicing, I'll keep an eye on the container here so that as it starts to fill up and approach that fill line, I can just pop the spout open and avoid any spillage and any mess. So this is actually one feature I really like about the Nama juice. I don't know if you noticed, but when you pop open the lid of the hopper, the juicer automatically shuts off. So that way you don't have to worry about any accidental cuts or any other issues that could go wrong if you are loading the hopper with the lid open. And then when I'm ready to keep going, it just turns itself back on. Here we have it, 44 ounces of celery, lemon, and apple juice that is not only sure to be nutritious, but also delicious. If you try out this recipe, comment below and let me know what you think. Thanks for watching.